After I declined my neighbor's offer to buy my house for her sister, my windows were broken and "sell or regret" was scratched into my front door. I called her crying, and she whispered, "We gave you a fair chance." The police said there was no witness until my neighbor's daughter secretly slipped me a drawing that showed. I bought my house in Monroe, North Carolina, after my divorce 8 years ago. It's not some big fancy place, just a quiet little brick home at the end of a cul-de-sac. I live alone. No kids, no pets. It's the one thing in my life I worked my ass off to get. Paid every bill myself. I fixed the place up over the years and turned it into something that felt like mine. I don't have much, but that house gave me peace. Lacey Moore moved in next door 5 years ago. She seemed nice at first. Always walking her dogs, smiling, waving. I'm not someone who makes friends fast, but we had a neighborly thing going. Small talk, the usual holiday cookies, borrowing tools once or twice. Then everything changed this past fall. She came over one evening around 6 p.m. with a bottle of wine. I remember that clearly because I almost didn't answer the door. I was in my sweats and had just microwaved leftovers. "Mind if I come in for a sec?" she asked. I let her in, mostly because she looked nervous. She sat at my kitchen table, sipping from the wine I didn't even open, and just sort of stared at me. Then she said it. "My sister's moving to Monroe," she said. "She's getting out of a bad relationship. I want her close by." I nodded. "Sorry to hear that." Then came the pitch. "We were hoping you might be open to selling your house." I honestly laughed. Not to be rude, I just thought she was joking. "Lacey, I'm not moving," I said. "This house is everything to me." She stared at me for a second. Her face didn't change. No smile. Just this weird, quiet look. Then she stood up. "Well, we figured it was worth asking," she said. She walked out without saying goodbye. I remember standing in my kitchen, trying to shake it off, but something felt off. A week later, I came home from work and found my kitchen window smashed in. Just one pane of glass. Nothing inside was stolen. No drawers were opened. No money was taken. Not even my crappy laptop. It didn't feel like a burglary. It felt personal. I reported it, of course. The officer who showed up told me it was probably some dumb kid. The following week, I woke up to get the paper and saw it. For words, scratched deep into my front door, "Sell or regret." Not spray paint. Not marker. Scratched in. Deep gouges. Like someone used a key or a knife. I stood there in my robe, shaking. I felt sick to my stomach. It looked like something from a horror movie. I couldn't think straight. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. I called the only person nearby I could think of. "Lacey." She picked up after 2 rings. "Lacey," I said, crying, "someone just threatened me. My window was broken last week and now someone scratched up my front door." There was a pause. Long enough that I thought maybe the call dropped. Then she whispered, "We gave you a fair chance." And hung up. I stood there with the phone still in my hand like I'd just been shot. My heart was pounding. I couldn't feel my legs. I didn't know what to do. I called the police again. 2 officers came out and looked at the damage. One of them said, "You got a camera?" I said no. "Well, unless someone saw something or there's footage, it's going to be hard to prove anything." They took photos, gave me another case number, and left. No follow-up. No nothing. I couldn't sleep for days. I kept replaying Lacey's voice in my head. "We gave you a fair chance." Who the hell says that? I started locking everything. Installed cheap cameras from Amazon. I'd never felt scared in my own home before, but I was scared now. I felt like a prisoner in my own life. Then something happened that changed everything. It was a Saturday morning. Cool weather. I was raking leaves in the backyard when I heard a soft voice. Miss Dana? I looked up and saw Lacey's daughter, Hannah, standing on the other side of the fence. She's about 10. Quiet girl. Always drawing in her little notebook. She looked over her shoulder like she was checking to make sure no one was watching. Then she slipped a folded paper through the crack in the fence. What's this? I asked. Just keep it, she said. Don't tell Mom. She ran back to her yard. I opened the paper. It was a drawing. Crayon. A child's drawing, but very specific. It was my house. Same front porch. Same mailbox. In front of it were two people. One had a ponytail, like Lacey. The other had long hair. One figure was holding a rock. The other had something in their hand, looked like a knife. Above the front door, written in red crayon, were the words, sell or regret. I sat down on the porch step and just stared at it. I didn't take it to the police right away. I didn't want to get Hannah in trouble. But now I knew. I knew it was Lacey and her sister. The same sister she wanted to move in next door. I started watching. Lacey ran a business from home. Interior decorating, she said. But people were coming and going at weird hours. Late-night cars. One guy in a black Jeep started showing up around 10 p.m. and leaving around 2 a.m. So I started taking notes. Times, dates, license plate numbers. I took photos from my bedroom window. It felt creepy and wrong, but I needed something solid. After a week, I went to the police. I asked for a detective. Showed him the drawing, the pictures, my notes. His face changed when he saw the drawing. Who gave you this? He asked. I hesitated. Then I told him. Turns out, that was all they needed to start watching Lacey for real. They got a warrant. They searched her house. They found drugs. Lots of them. Stuff hidden in her couch cushions, fake plant pots, even under the floorboards. They found burner phones. And on one of those phones, text messages. One read, "She's not selling. We'll scare her out. Doors next." Another said, "She'll cave. She's alone." My address was in her notes. My daily routine. The shifts I worked. They'd been watching me. They arrested Lacey, her sister, and the guy in the Jeep. He turned out to be a drug runner from Charlotte. The whole decorating business was a front. They were using Lacey's house to move and hide drugs. But even after all that, I didn't feel finished. Because I knew the system would probably give her a slap on the wrist. But I had something else in mind. After the arrests, things got quiet. Too quiet. Lacey's house sat dark for a few days. No lights, no cars. Then, all of a sudden, her husband, Brent, showed up. Yeah, forgot to mention him earlier. That's because he was never really around. He worked construction out of town, sometimes gone for weeks. I never had much to say to him. But now, he was back. And pissed. I saw him walking up and down the sidewalk the night after Lacey got arrested, yelling into his phone. At one point, he stood in his driveway just staring at my house. Hands on his hips. Breathing heavy. I stayed inside. I didn't want a scene. But I knew he blamed me. The next morning, I found a dead squirrel nailed to my fence. I'm not exaggerating. Someone literally hammered a nail through the poor thing and stuck it right between our 2 yards. I threw up. Then I called the police again. This time they actually took it seriously. Maybe because of the past threats. Maybe because they realized Lacey wasn't just some bored suburban mom. They paid Brent a visit, warned him to stay away from me. That didn't stop him. 3 nights later, someone sprayed rat across my garage door in red paint. Camera caught a blurry figure. Hood up. Could have been Brent, could have been anyone. Cops came, took the footage, but again, they said it wasn't enough. I knew it was him. But I couldn't prove it. I started to break down. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't work. Every time I turned off a light, I thought someone was watching. I even moved a dresser in front of my bedroom window, just in case. That's when Hannah came back. It was after school. I saw her standing near the fence again, holding her notebook. She slipped another paper through the crack. This one wasn't a drawing. It was a page torn from a journal. Written in messy kid handwriting. Mom told me not to tell anyone, but Uncle Brent helped with the red spray paint. I heard them laughing. They said me, should have moved. They said people who don't listen get scared out. I saw him holding the spray bottle last night. That was it. That was the piece I needed. I made a copy. Brought it to the detective handling the case. At first, he said they couldn't use it without bringing Hannah in. But I told him I'd testify to how I got it. I didn't care anymore. They interviewed Hannah. Quietly. Away from her dad, away from Lacey's family. She told them everything. Her mom, her aunt, Brent. She told them she saw them practicing the message on cardboard. Said her mom laughed when they scratched my door. Said her aunt was the one who brought the knife to make it look scary. That's when things blew open again. Turns out Brent wasn't just covering for Lacey. He was part of it all. He helped her hide the drugs. He helped run stuff between Monroe and Charlotte using his job as a cover. Construction trucks. Boxes labeled as tools. That kind of thing. Hannah's statement was the final nail in the coffin. Brent got arrested. Lacey got hit with more charges. Her sister too. But they didn't go down easy. While they were out on bail, someone tried to break into my garage. Didn't steal anything. Just broke the lock and left the door hanging open. I didn't even call the police that time. I installed floodlights and changed every lock again. I knew it wasn't over. Then came the letter. A plain white envelope taped to my back door. No stamp. No return address. Inside was one piece of paper. Typed. No signature. You should have just moved. You still can. I brought it straight to the detective. They dusted for prints. Nothing useful. Whoever sent it wore gloves. But now the DA got involved. They pushed for house arrest for Lacey and Brent until trial. Their bail was revoked. And I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. Because someone else was still pulling strings behind the scenes. And they were about to make their move. After Brent and Lacey were both locked down under house arrest, I thought things would finally calm down. But trouble has a way of finding you when people feel cornered. 2 weeks after the letter was taped to my back door, I came home from the grocery store and noticed my side gate was open. I always lock that gate. Always. It's a habit. So right away my gut told me something was wrong. I stepped inside slowly. Looked around. Nothing broken. Nothing missing. But when I walked into the backyard, I froze. Someone had dug a hole. A deep, narrow one. Right under my bedroom window. No tools left behind, no footprints, just a fresh pile of dirt, a hole 2 feet deep, and a small, half-buried garden stake with my name taped to it. My name. On a garden stake. In a grave-sized hole. I dropped everything and called 911. This time, they treated it like a serious threat. They dusted, they photographed, they called in the DA again. The stake had smudged fingerprints. Not enough to match. But the message was clear, they were still trying to scare me. I called Hannah's school the next day. Asked if she was safe. They said she hadn't shown up in a week. Her dad's side of the family had taken her for a while. Something felt off about that. I got in my car and drove to the edge of town where Brent's cousin lived. He's a known troublemaker. Been in and out of jail since high school. I parked down the road and waited. I didn't even know what I was doing, just something told me I had to. After 2 hours, I saw her. Hannah. In the backyard. Sitting alone on a tire swing. I walked up to the porch and knocked. A woman I'd never seen opened the door. She looked half asleep and smelled like whiskey. I asked if Hannah was okay. She narrowed her eyes. Who the hell are you? I'm her neighbor, I said. She's been through enough. The woman slammed the door. I walked back to my car. Just before I got in, I heard a voice. Wait. Hannah had come to the edge of the yard. She looked around and whispered, "They're planning something." I felt my blood go cold. What do you mean? I asked. They said you ruined everything. And that if the court doesn't scare you off, someone else will. The next week, I got a call from the DA's office. The trial date had been moved up. Why? Because they caught Brent's cousin talking to a guy in lockup, trying to pay him to plant drugs in my house. Enough to make me look like I was involved. Try to discredit me. Frame me. Scare me into dropping charges or moving away. But what they didn't know. That guy they tried to hire was working with law enforcement already. Turned on them for a lighter sentence in another case. He wore a wire. They got the whole plan on tape. That was it. That's what finally brought it all crashing down. The DA brought the wire recordings, the threats, the stake with my name on it, the messages, the drawing from Hannah, everything to court. The jury didn't even need a full day. Brent, 17 years. Lacey, 22 years. Her sister, 10. The judge called it one of the most disturbing and targeted harassment campaigns he'd ever seen in a suburban setting. And me? I stayed in my house. Even after they were sentenced, I didn't feel right. I had my house. They were behind bars. But I was still sleeping with the lights on. I still checked the locks 3 times a night. I still flinched every time a car slowed down near my driveway. My peace wasn't back yet. Then I got a letter from a lawyer. It was about Hannah. Lacey had lost custody. Brent's family didn't want to take her full-time, they claimed she was too much trouble. The system was trying to find someone Hannah trusted. Someone she'd be safe with. Her social worker wrote that Hannah had only asked for one person. Me. I sat at my kitchen table and cried for a long time after that. I wasn't a parent. I'd never wanted kids. But this wasn't about me. This was about a little girl who had risked everything to help me when no one else would. I said yes. She moved in with me 2 months later. At first it was awkward. She was quiet, kept to herself. She missed her mom even though she never said it out loud. I didn't push. We just took our time. She had her own room, her own space, her own little art desk by the window. I started learning how to cook things kids actually eat. We found a rhythm. One day, I came home and saw her drawing again. It was a new picture. Me and her, sitting on the porch. There was a birdhouse in the tree, flowers in bloom. The house looked calm. Safe. At the bottom, in her crooked handwriting, she wrote, "We're okay now." That drawing is still framed in my living room. But the story didn't end there. Because I wanted to make sure this never happened to anyone else again. So I took every note, every letter, every photo, every court transcript, and every police report, and I gave them to a journalist friend of mine who used to work in Charlotte. She wrote a feature. The House They Couldn't Steal, a story about corruption, intimidation, and how one little girl blew open a whole drug operation in a small North Carolina town. It got picked up by a major paper. The DA got praise. The police department got scrutiny. And the neighborhood? It got attention. The city came out and inspected every house on our block. 2 more properties connected to Brent's crew were seized. That whole little web of fake businesses and threats started to collapse like dominoes. And then came the lawsuits. Turns out a few other homeowners had been scared into selling over the years: lowball offers, strange accidents, false violations from supposed city workers. Now they had proof of a pattern. Class action suits went out. More charges were added. But the final piece of revenge? It came a year later. I was mowing the lawn when I saw a for sale sign go up on Lacey's old house. The bank had taken it, finally. Guess who showed up to look at it? The same man who'd laughed at me at the precinct that first day. The cop who asked, "Any witnesses?" with that bored look in his eye. He didn't recognize me at first. But I walked over. "You still think I imagined it all?" I asked. He looked down, embarrassed. "I was wrong." I nodded. "Yeah. You were. Now it's just me and Hannah. The porch is fixed. The door is new. The cameras are real. And that garden stake? The one with my name taped to it? I had it cleaned, sealed in glass, and turned into a paperweight on my desk. So I never forget how close I came to losing everything. And how sometimes, the person who saves you isn't the police or the courts. It's a 10-year-old girl with crayons and more courage than anyone else on the block. They tried to take my home. They lost everything. I got a daughter. That's real revenge. And it's permanent.